Right. Folks, here we are, bang in the middle of the week. And if you're like me, you're still trying to dust yourself off after that horror show on Sunday. Honestly, I don't think anyone's in the mood to relive that mess at Den Park. So let's just move on. No point dragging ourselves through that pain again. What matters now is what's coming. And unfortunately, what's coming is another potentially nervy European night at Celtic Park. Tomorrow it's back to the Europa League. And even if your heart's not exactly racing with excitement at the thought, the truth is this game means a lot more than it feels like on the surface. I get it, folk are down, the mood around the club is low, the performances have been flat, and there's this growing sense that something just isn't clicking. So naturally, the anticipation for Thursday night against Sturm Graz is, let's say, muted. And that's being generous. But the thing is, this match actually matters a lot. It's not just another Thursday night in a half-empty stadium. We've taken 1 point from our first 2 Europa League fixtures. Just one. That's not good enough, and it puts us in a proper tough spot. Historically, you're needing about 11 points minimum just to scrape into the top 24 and give yourself a shot at the knockouts. 10 might do it, but let's not bank on that. Last season, there were teams that went out even with 10. So let's be real here. With only 1 point on the board, this match against Sturm Graz is pretty much must-win if we want to keep our European hopes alive. And it's not just about points and tables either. After what we saw against Dundee, fans need something to hold on to. We need a reaction, a spark, not one of those fake little bursts of energy at the start, where we press for the first 5 or 10 minutes and then fade right back into sideways passes and sloppy defending. No, we need a proper performance. One with bite, with purpose. Because if Celtic come out flat again, if we see the same tired patterns and lack of urgency, I think even the most loyal among us will start feeling like we're headed for a write-off of a season. Brendan Rodgers will be speaking to the media soon. And look, I'd love to sit here and say I'm buzzing to hear what he has to say. But let's be honest, we've heard it all before, haven't we? Stick together, trust the process, need to be better, need to work harder. We know. But the talk doesn't matter much anymore. What matters is that starting 11 tomorrow night. That's where Rodgers can actually say something meaningful. Because let's not sugarcoat this. Too many of the same names are playing every week despite consistently underperforming. And we've got players sitting on the bench who are absolutely desperate for a chance. Players who, at the very least, are hungry to prove themselves. That hunger alone could make a massive difference on a night like this. Now I did this thing yesterday where I tried to put together my ideal 11, a bit of a fantasy lineup with big changes. It was exciting, but honestly, not very realistic. Rodgers isn't going to go full revolution overnight, not his style. So today I've tried to think about what's actually possible, given how Brendan's approached these European midweeks so far. He's tended to shuffle things a bit from the weekend matches, usually 3 or 4 changes, but he's not one for ripping the spine of the team out. So don't expect him to drop Callum McGregor or Cameron Carter-Vickers or even Joe Hart, although many of us wouldn't mind seeing some of those names rotated. In reality, Rodgers will probably stick with his core and tweak around the edges. We're hearing that Daisen Maeda could be back in the squad after his hamstring issue, which is massive if true. Just his work rate alone gives us something we've been sorely lacking. Alistair Johnston might also be fit enough for a return to the squad, although probably not from the start. And then there's Paulo Bernardo, missed the weekend through illness, but if he's recovered, he could be involved again. But assuming none of them are ready to start, which is very possible, what kind of lineup could we realistically see? Based on what Rodgers has done previously, you're probably looking at something like this. Backline stays mostly intact. Joe Hart, Carter Vickers, Liam Scales. You might see changes at fullback, Kobe Donovan, and maybe Marco Tilio coming in. In midfield, it could be a return for Odin Holm or maybe Rocco Veda if Rodgers fancies a bit more energy. Maybe even Hatate coming back in if he's sharp enough. Out wide, there's definitely room for a shake-up. Yang's performance on Sunday was well below par, and Rodgers might be tempted to give someone like Mikey Johnston or even Leo Labata a run from the start, if he's back in contention. Up top, Kyogo will probably keep his place, but you do wonder whether O might get some minutes depending on how the game is going. It's not the dramatic overhaul some fans are crying out for, but even 4 changes, the kind we've seen Rodgers make before in Europe, could freshen things up enough to at least give us a bit of hope. And I think that's all we're asking for right now, just a bit of hope. Because look, Some of the stats doing the rounds are pretty grim. I saw one on a forum yesterday claiming we hadn't won 3 games in a row since last November. Now that's not quite true. We did manage 3 wins early this season. But the fact that stat even feels believable says it all. Here's one that is true though, and it's absolutely wild. 14 competitive matches into this campaign, and we've not scored a single goal before the 26th minute. Not one. Think about that for a second. 14 matches. No early goals. That's not just bad luck. That's a trend. That's a team not starting well. And when you're Celtic, especially at home, you're supposed to come out flying. You're supposed to overwhelm teams in the first 20 minutes. But we've been coming out passive, flat, almost like we're waiting for the game to come to us. In total, we've scored 5 first-half goals in all competitions this season. 5. That's it. In 14 games. And 2 of those came bang on the 26th minute. It's just not good enough. You can talk about tactics and possession and structure all you like, but if you're not threatening in the first half, especially at this level, you're in trouble. And here's the thing, Sturm Graz, they are scoring. They're in form. They've won 4 in a row since their Europa League opener. They beat Rangers. They're top of the Austrian Bundesliga, ahead of Salzburg, with a game in hand. They've got belief, they've got rhythm, and they're coming to Celtic Park fully expecting to get a result. And the thing is, you can just feel the tension, can't you? It's hanging over the club like a cloud right now. Every bad touch, every misplaced pass, every moment of hesitation, you can hear the groans getting louder and louder inside the ground. Fans aren't daft. We've seen good football. We've seen what this club can be when it's firing on all cylinders. And this isn't it. Not even close. That's what makes tomorrow night so crucial. It's not just about qualification or keeping the European run alive. It's about reminding people that Celtic can still put on a performance, still stand up, and show a bit of pride. Because what we're watching lately has been lifeless. Stale. Like a team going through the motions, with no real belief in what they're trying to do. And I hate to say it, but that reflects back on Brendan Rodgers. Look, I've always said he's a smart manager. His track record speaks for itself. But right now, we're not seeing a side that looks well-drilled or motivated. We're seeing a team that's confused, short on confidence, and lacking that spark we were promised when he came back. You can blame individual players all you want, and plenty deserve criticism, don't get me wrong, but the system, the atmosphere, the identity, that's on the manager. He keeps saying we need to stick together and be patient. Fair enough. But at what point do you stop being patient and start demanding more? Because there's only so long the supporters will accept mediocrity, especially when we were told this squad was strong enough to compete at a high level. And yet, here we are, crawling through matches, waiting until the half-hour mark to show any kind of intent. It's why so many fans are already starting to look beyond Rodgers, wondering what's next. And that brings us to the story that did the rounds yesterday. The big rumor, the one that had folk talking all over social media, Ange Postecoglou making a sensational return to Celtic. Now look, I know just saying his name brings back all sorts of feelings. Those 2 years under Ange, they were electric. The football, the connection with the fans, the sense of purpose, it was all there. He made us believe again. So naturally, when a report comes out saying he'd seriously consider coming back if given the chance, people are going to latch onto it. I get it. It's a lovely wee daydream. The idea of Ange walking back through the doors, taking over again, lifting the mood instantly. But here's the thing, it's just that. A daydream. The story came from Football Insider, and without going too deep into it, they're not exactly the most reliable source. And even the article itself was flimsy. No quotes, no real substance, just vague lines about sources saying he'd be open to a return. I mean, come on. Anyone can say that. But when you actually look at Ange's career, his mindset, the way he moves from job to job, it just doesn't add up. The guy thrives on new challenges. He's never gone back to manage the same club twice. And more than that, when he leaves somewhere, he tends to do it cleanly. No dragging things out. No looking back. He throws everything into the job while he's there. But when it's done, it's done. That's just who he is. Even if he's not managing right now, which he isn't after the Forest job went south, it's very unlikely he's sitting at home thinking about coming back to Glasgow. Plus, let's not forget why he left in the first place. It wasn't just about money or prestige. It was about ambition. About working at the highest level possible. The project at Tottenham, flawed as it was, represented a chance to test himself in the Premier League. That's what drives him, the challenge. So unless something major changes in how Celtic operates, in terms of structure, budget, vision, I can't see him coming back. And in a weird way, maybe it's not even the right move. As brilliant as Ange was, do we really want to keep going backwards? Brendan left and came back. Neil Lennon left and came back twice. Do we want to be the club that just keeps recycling past managers every time things go wrong? There's a bigger conversation to be had there about identity, direction, and planning. It's tempting to dream about an Ange comeback. We all miss that football, but we've got to live in reality. And right now, the reality is Brendan Rodgers is in charge, for better or worse. And it's his job to fix this, to find a way out of the mess we're in. That starts tomorrow night. Because let me be clear, lose against Sturm Graz, and the noise around the club gets deafening. The pressure on Rodgers becomes unbearable. The league form isn't convincing, the squad looks fractured, and a European exit at this stage would be disastrous for confidence, morale, and maybe even his long-term future at the club. He needs a reaction. The players need to respond. And the fans? We just need something, anything, to remind us that there's still life in this team, that there's still fight. Because what we've seen so far this season hasn't been anywhere near good enough. And while there's still time to turn it around, the window is closing fast. We've been here before. European nights at Parkhead, under the lights, the crowd behind the team, the energy buzzing. This club can rise to the occasion. But it needs leadership. It needs bravery. It needs a manager who's willing to make big calls and trust fresh legs. Not the same tired faces hoping to stumble into a result. And maybe that's the biggest thing for me right now, the need for boldness. This isn't the time for safe choices or sticking to the script. Rodgers has to take risks. Because if we go out there tomorrow night with the same lineup, the same shape, the same patterns, we're going to get punished. Sturm Graz aren't scared. They've got momentum, and they know we're vulnerable. So this is it. A crossroads moment. Win, and maybe you buy yourself some breathing space. A bit of belief. A platform to build on. But lose, and you're staring down the barrel of another European flop, growing fan unrest, and some very uncomfortable questions about the future of this squad and this manager. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are swirling around Parkhead tonight, and the green half of Glasgow can hardly believe it. Sergio Ramos, the legendary Spanish center-back, is said to have signed a lightning-fast deal with Celtic. You read that right. The man who captained Real Madrid to glory after glory and lifted trophies for Spain as if it were second nature might just be pulling on the famous green and white hoops. The rumor broke in the wee hours, spreading through social media like wildfire. According to sources close to the club, though nothing's been made official, a short-term agreement was wrapped up in record time. Some claim it's a bold move by the board, meant to bring instant leadership and a touch of continental steel to a young Celtic defense that's been shaky in recent weeks. Others reckon it's just too wild to be true, a piece of transfer season fantasy to warm the chilly Scottish autumn. Still, the idea of Ramos marshalling the back line at Celtic Park has fans buzzing. Could the man who once faced Messi in El Clasico now be squaring up against Rangers in the Old Firm Derby? The thought alone is enough to set pubs from Govan to Glasgow cross alight with debate. For the faithful, it's a dream of experience, grit, and swagger arriving straight from European royalty. For the skeptics, it's a head-scratcher. Why would a legend of his stature head north at this stage of his glittering career? There's talk of a 6-month deal, a mentorship role, or even a player-coach arrangement. The whispers hint that Brendan Rodgers personally made the call, convincing Ramos with a passionate pitch about history, ambition, and a final chapter written under the lights of paradise. Whether it's fact or fancy, no one's quite sure. But if Sergio Ramos really does walk through those Celtic doors, it won't just be a signing, it'll be a statement. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.